Right, I was going to talk about the head of the CBI, but British Airways today has announced that it's ordered 12 Airbus A380s and 24 Boeing 787s with an option for more of both types of plane. The aircraft will be delivered between 2010 and 14. The airline's getting $1.5 billion of debt financing from a group of banks to cover all the firm orders until the end of 2011. Meanwhile, Air France-KLM has drafted in a pair of Spanish partners to launch an offer for Iberia, potentially spoiling a planned bid for the Spanish carrier from British Airways and private equity partner TPG. Joining us for more, a look at the sector is Paul O'Neill, Director of Transport at Deloitte. Paul, good to see you. Let's kick off first of all with the BA order, because the stock's up today. Is the stock up because they ordered some planes? Does that make a lot of sense?
The ordering of planes has been long anticipated. BA have been very careful in positioning themselves, clearing the balance sheet, getting some capacity so they could make this investment. It's a little late in the cycle for refleeting for them, but nothing drastic, so I don't think that's a surprise.
Can they make there have been concerns about whether they can actually make the A380 profitable enough for themselves. How hard is it going to make a plane like that profitable as others?
It's a question of the capacity of your long-haul market. It's a long-haul vehicle only. It doesn't work on a short haul on the economics. But it is a streamlining process to how you operate your business. If you get a lot more people on one vehicle, a lot of your fixed costs for operating that flight are the same. There are some modifications you need to make at airports, but many airports have already tooled up for that. So I think they're onto a very smart move. It's a bit of a surprise that they've chosen that, because they have said in the past that they wouldn't be early movers in the A380. I guess they're not really early movers. There's still a long time before the delivery date.
And as you say, maybe they're trying to ease the squeeze there. Just before we go on to Iberia, just a word about they want to open up new routes with the Dreamline. What sort of routes do you think they have in mind?
Well, there's an element of focus on different sorts of destinations. So this week they announced some reshuffling, pulling out of certain American destinations and increasing frequencies to some of the more popular hubs, so like Seattle, like, of course, New York and so on. So it's a bit of a shuffle, a bit of a refinement rather than a complete transfer, complete change. We may see them exploring some other financial centre type routes, but this is just the sort of business as usual activity. You know, they fly to the busy airports. That's how the business is for them.
Right, what's going to happen with Iberia? Paul, what's your best guess here? And you think Air France reports that they're now eyeing it up as well. Where's this going to finish?
I think Iberia, they are very smart players in what looks like a European airline game of musical chairs. The music's playing. A lot of airlines haven't got off the chair yet to join in. Other airlines have got up and are positioning themselves to make sure they're survivors when the music stops. And I think Iberia are quite near the front of that getting up off the chairs process to make sure that there's still something happening in Spain in terms of what looks a bit like a national flag carrier. I think we've seen other cases where in the musical chairs game there have been embarrassments. So the Brussels airline isn't there anymore. Swiss airline has been bought by the Lufthansa. So there are some smaller players already shaken out. We're seeing other players very nervously waiting. Shall I get off the chair? Shall I go and find a big player to help me survive into the future? And they're not moving yet. Iberia is just a bit ahead of the curve.
Alitalia, of course, is sort of still floundering around. You know, is anybody going to buy Alitalia while the government's still insisting on the sort of the job guarantees?
The conditions have always been the problem. There was the auction, which several players took a look at, perhaps most notably Aeroflot, but the conditions are severe. It's basically saying we have a loss-making airline here. You've got to keep running it the way it is. Well, that's not an enticement to invest. If the conditions are relaxed, then there will be a smart player who'll pick up what's good. And there are some very good parts of Alitalia. You've got to be able to get those, you've got to be able to look after those within a business context. And I think there's an opportunity there if the conditions are relaxed.
And finally, how is the industry sort of still coping? We continue to see oil prices have edged up to sort of all-time highs recently. Are they being naturally hedged by the fact that the euros and sterling have been up against the dollar? Does that help them out a lot, or have they had good hedging policies in place?
It's a bit of a blend. I mean, the currency movements do help in some cases, but of course you often have to buy fuel in many different jurisdictions, many different currency areas, so that doesn't always help. We've had some fuel shocks in the past, and so airlines have become much smarter or much more conservative about balancing the fuel price risk. But I think it's just that history which makes them less scared when we get the $80 barrel prices. Doesn't mean it's not an issue, just means that they're now more mature for dealing with an issue of that scale.
Yeah, I suppose the other question is then how much ability they have anyway to, if demand is strong enough, you can always just pass that straight on to the passenger. Are they able to pay it?
On the whole, they are. On the whole, they are. It varies upon different markets. Short haul, it's tougher because some of the low-cost carriers, which is mainly the short haul market, they choose not to pass on fuel surcharges. But on the long haul market, most of the competitors do the same anyway. They have to pass on the fuel price. It's too big a change in your running costs to ignore. So it looks more or less like an equal competition.
Okay, Paul, good to see you. Thanks very much, Steve, for joining us. Paul O'Neill, Director of Transport at Deloitte.